So some people have observed that I'm not careful enough about loose sleeves on the table saw because it might get sucked into the blade. And I was thinking a zero clearance insert might add a little bit of a safety factor because it might prevent the shirt from getting sucked all the way into the saw. So I'm going to do some experiments. So I've got a piece of cloth here and I'm going to dangle that into the saw blade to see what happens. And I've got this block of wood here just to make sure this part isn't going to get sucked in. And this actually is on here relatively loosely. So the cloth can get pulled out of here if it really snags on the blade. Well, that didn't work. I think this piece of cloth is just too light, so the wind just keeps blowing it around. So I'm going to fold this over and maybe put a seam on it just to make it a bit heavier so I can get that caught in the blade. So I folded it over and I put a seam along here, and then I folded it over again here and put a seam along here, and I'm going to dangle that with the seam facing the blade, so hopefully it will be able to catch on the spinning blade. So that means I have to put it on here like so, and again put it underneath the strip here. Well, that was really disappointing. I just can't get this thing caught in the blade, so I just loosened this up here a bit. I'm going to put this splint behind it so that I can actually force this chunk of cloth into the blade so I can get it to catch. Well, that piece of cloth got a little bit shredded, but what is actually wanting to happen is that the table saw would really yank on it. It doesn't really matter if the table saw chews up your shirt, it's your arms getting pulled into it, and no point did I get a good yank on there that would have just ripped this thing out of there. It really isn't that firm in there, so it wasn't actually yanking on it, it just shredded it. So maybe I should try something that maybe looks more like a sleeve for my next experiment. So here's my pretend sleeve. It's a bit on the small side, but I figure I should be able to get that hooked onto the blade while it's spinning, and see how that gets yanked. Well, still no luck, so I'm going to put a splint into this sleeve to force it onto the blade so it doesn't get blown away just like my previous samples, and maybe that will get it hooked onto the blade. So getting this piece of cloth sucked into the saw blade is much harder than I thought it would be. So the prospect of getting your sleeve sucked into the saw if you're doing this is much less likely than I thought it was. So realistically, if I was a daredevil, I would do this just to verify the experiment, but I just don't have the guts for that. I'll just say, leave it be.